Alright guys, Chris here, and I'm going to be reviewing Fracture, and this is going to be my first review. The only problem is I don't have the technology to do video reviews, so I'm going to just do basically a talk and just give me my general opinions, and this is all improvised, which, I don't know, I hope it works out, but we'll see. Let me know, guys. Post some comments, let me know what you think. I don't have a script or anything, so this might be brutal, so just let me know what you guys think. So this is Fracture. Oof, there's a little glare there. Alright, I'll get the manual out so you guys can see it. This is the same cover art for the game. Hope that's a little better. I think it is. And this is for the Xbox 360, as you can see. And Fracture is a unique shooter in the way that it uses this thing called terrain deformation. And, just picture a shooter, but you can also raise and lower the ground. So you have a special gun that shoots the ground and it makes it go lower, like makes like a little ditch or make a little mountain. And this is pretty cool concept. The only problem is they do not use this concept well. So I'll start off with the story. Alright, so the protagonist's name is Jet Brody, and that's who you play. And he is a soldier for the Atlantic Alliance. And those are the countries of basically the West, like, the Americas. And they pair with Europe, which, I know it's closer more to the East, but they pair with Europe. And they take on the Pacificans, which is China and other, countries way in the East, more like China, Russia, them kind of people, and they have a big schism, and that's why they get into this big war. And this is in the future, by the way, guys. And so they get into this war, and what happens is the Pacificans are using this certain technology, which they like put into their brain, and they make them like ultra powerful, but they're kind of losing their humanness, I guess, like the human aspects that they have. And the Atlantic Alliance don't agree with this. The way they feel is you should just advance your people using technology, and so that's what they use. They use like special technology to fight the battle, while the Pacificans use their special, basically, power-ups. And so the Earth we knew it as today is basically deteriorating due to like the schism, because the fighting back and forth. That's not going to help, and also due to some like natural disasters like earthquakes, storms, and that sort of thing. And like I said, the uniqueness is the terrain deformation, and you raise the ground. But the problem is they do not use this well. They just don't. It's used to solve simple puzzles. Raise the terrain to provide cover or be able to walk up the terrain to go over the fence. Which it's gotta be better than that. It's such a unique factor. Everyone's looking forward to it. If you've ever seen the trailer, it's awesome and looks so cool. Like you see like the Golden Gate Bridge being destroyed and everything, but it's definitely lower than what the trailer said, because all you use the terrain deformation for is for simple puzzles, like lower the terrain to go to a pipe underground, raise it to go over the fence, use the terrain for cover, raise a terrain to crush an enemy to the roof. Which yeah, that's cool, but you just never use it. Like it's never used. It's not useful. You're better off just shooting them, because all the times you try to do this awesome kill, you're just gonna get killed before you can even do it. And the game is pretty hard in that aspect. It's hard to kill your enemies because they all have shields, and it takes probably 10 shots with a normal machine gun to actually kill them. So it's a tough game, but you're better off shooting than just actually trying to crush them with the roof and everything, even though it's cool. And so, as more of an enjoyment factor, they kind of grant the player to do some of these stimulating kills, which you have certain things called like a spike grenade, which shoots up spikes, like a big spike from the ground straight up, and this is used to bring you like up on a platform. But I think you can use it to bring it up and crush an enemy on the roof, like you can with a terrain deformation. And you can also use a vortex grenade, which makes a giant vortex and just whirls around, and everything in its path goes in the vortex, boxes, enemies, and even you. So if you get caught in that vortex, you're screwed, guys. And it also provides kind of a tactical aspect, like all these unique kills, because it gives you a different way. Like if you want to kill multiple enemies, you would want to use the vortex, obviously, and you can use like certain frag grenades also. But if you have just one enemy and you're having a hard time seeing him or something, or he's just taking you down, then you might want to use a spike grenade. But it's just hard. It's hard to carry out because you have a limited amount of spike grenades. Like maybe you only have 3 tries, and it's gonna take a lot more than 3 tries unless you're really lucky. So as far as the gameplay, it's pretty straightforward, which could be a positive or negative depending on what type of game you are. If you're kind of new to the shooter aspects of the shooter genre of games, it might be good for you because it's basically like a straightforward. You aim, you shoot with the terrain deformation, but I mean that's just used for puzzles. I wouldn't even worry about that if you're afraid of it being too complex. For gamers who like more hardcore, a lot of different aspects, this might not be for you. It's kind of like a Halo letdown in a way, to be honest. And excuse me, I'm not a big Halo fan, but Halo's in my mind better than Fracture, to be honest. But at first the game might not seem too bad. You know, you'll be kind of hooked from the beginning. I know I was hooked. But as you advance through the levels, the repetitive will begin to kind of ruin any amusement that you had from this game. And let's see, the game is basically divided into three parts. You start off in San Francisco, and then you go on to the southwest, and then you go to Washington D.C. And as a player, you kind of hope for some change from San Fran to the southwest to Washington D.C. But basically, if we're talking general concepts, it's all the same, and that's kind of a problem because I mean San Fran's fun, but once you end up finishing with the Golden Gate Bridge, which is the last level of San Fran, if I'm not mistaken, then you go to the southwest, and I mean it keeps the same. And then if you kind of get through southwest, you're like begging for something different, and Washington D.C. does not offer you that at all. It's basically just new settings because I mean each setting has indoor outdoor area, and if you're indoor, going around kind of a dungeon type thing, but it's not a dungeon at all because it's futuristic. But just compare it to a dungeon, I guess. And you're just killing enemies and trying to maybe collect something, or just killing enemies in an area to get to a certain boss. And you just kind of, I mean, it's just like a kind of basic shooter. You're just trying to kill people and finish your objectives. Excuse me. And basically, when you go to the southwest, it's the same thing. Interior, try and kill people, get apart. Exterior, just kill all the Pacifics in an area and just keep walking. And the problem is there's more running around trying to figure out where to go in a certain area than there is really shooting. Like, I mean, I know you're going to have to shoot to get through the enemies, but there's too much walking around. There really is. I'd rather than make the level smaller, but add more enemies, and it just be more shooting, so it's like more cover, shoot, instead of just running and spraying and hoping for the best. And, I mean, the only reason I think that I would be able to get through this game on hard is because the AI is crap, guys. I mean, you'll see people just sitting there like they're taking cover behind nothing. That there's nothing there. They're just ducking, not even shooting, just like ducking, hands over their head sort of thing. And you just shoot them, and it makes no sense. And another kind of glitchy error would be like these invisible barriers, I guess. If you see like a little invisible wall, like you don't see an invisible wall, sorry. So you're walking and you can't go any farther because there's a wall right there blocking you. And I mean, you don't know why you can't go there because it's just a big invisible wall. I mean, if the developers could just put a little more time in at least making a giant barrier or something, so it's more realistic. So you're just like, why can't I go over here? And then you're like, oh, I must not be allowed to. But I mean, it looks like I can go there. There's a tunnel, and so if they just put like some sort of like just big gate or a bunch of boxes or something, just so you know, I mean, it would save time and frustration. And just another glitch would be when you shoot when you're targeting someone. Sorry, when you target someone, you'll see the person target, like the target locator on the person, and when they go behind a box, the target's still on them, and so you may not know that you're targeting them behind a box, but you're just shooting and shooting and shooting, and you're not even aware that you're wasting all your ammo because you can't see, but you think it's targeted, so you think you're just killing him, but then you realize he's behind a box. You just kind of, I mean, you're screwed because you just wasted all your ammo, and now, I mean, how are you going to fight someone with no guns? And you're going to use terrain deformation and crush them against the roof? That's not going to happen, guys. And so, I think the best part of the game, Fracture, is basically there's three aspects, and one of them is the weapons themselves, because the weapons are really unique. Like you have your basic, sniper rifle, you have your, machine gun. I mean, they have different names. They're not called sniper rifle, machine gun. Or actually, I know the machine gun for the Atlantic Alliance is called I think it's called the Bulldog. Yeah, it's the Bulldog. And then like the basic rifle for the Pacificans called the Raptor. And I mean, there's all these different names, but they're not just called machine gun. They're not like their basic names because it's new technology, I guess. And so I mean, the weapons are honestly really cool. The only problem is there's really no reason not to just stick with your machine gun unless it's a boss battle. For example, like he has something called the Rhino, where you just brings in all this terrain and makes a big boulder and you just shoot them at people. And the only problem with this is the boulder is not really big enough to kill more than 2 enemies. So if you're in an area